In a sea of stars, where science meets storytelling, welcome to Starlight Sci-Fi, the home of awe-inspiring adventures beyond the known universe. When humanity's military cadets were mocked by alien forces for their lack of experience, no one expected that their ingenuity and resilience would turn the tide of an intergalactic war. This is the tale of how untested Earthlings silenced the galaxy's most fearsome warriors. In the 27th century, humanity had finally made its mark among the stars, joining the prestigious Council of the Concord, an alliance of advanced alien civilizations united against mutual threats. For Earth, this was a monumental achievement, a seat at the table with species that had roamed the galaxy for millennia. But while humanity was eager to prove itself, its entry into the Council was met with skepticism, if not outright dismissal. The Terran Defense Force, TDF, Earth's military arm, was young and untested compared to the legions of the Graxans, Rylith, and other Council members. These species had perfected the art of war through centuries of interstellar conflict, developing tactics and weaponry that dwarfed humanity's efforts. To them, humans were little more than ambitious upstarts, their inclusion in the Council seen as a gesture of diplomacy rather than necessity. The Council's focus was on a growing threat, the Catharn Dominion, a ruthless empire consuming systems at an alarming rate. Known for their brutal efficiency and unwavering discipline, the Catharn were unlike anything humanity had encountered. To prepare, the Council organized joint military exercises on a barren, inhospitable moon, a proving ground for strategies and cooperation among its member species. When the humans arrived, their presence barely registered. Graxan warriors, towering and heavily armored, regarded the human cadets with disdain. The Rylath, known for their cold cunning, openly mocked the TDF's rudimentary technology and naive optimism. Even the more neutral species offered little more than condescending smiles. For their part, the cadets tried to hold their heads high, but whispers of derision were impossible to ignore. Assigned to menial tasks like supply management and basic reconnaissance, the cadets were excluded from advanced training drills and combat planning. It was as if the Council was humoring them, allowing them to play soldier while the real warriors prepared for battle. Yet, beneath the surface, something was stirring. The human cadets were not blind to the alien skepticism. They saw the mocking glances, heard the dismissive comments, but instead of breaking their spirits, it sharpened their resolve. They watched, listened, and learned. Each drill, each exercise became a lesson, not just in combat but in the strengths and flaws of their alien counterparts. Unnoticed, they began to piece together something no one else saw, an opportunity to turn the tables. The joint training exercises were meant to unify the Council's forces against the Catharn, but for the human cadets, they quickly became a humiliating ordeal. The advanced simulations projected entire battlefields onto the moon's surface, recreating past conflicts and scenarios designed to test the mettle of even the most seasoned warriors. Alien commanders demonstrated their precision and dominance, executing maneuvers with practiced ease. For the humans, however, these drills revealed just how far behind they truly were. Time after time, the Terran cadets failed. In one simulation, a mock Catharn invasion overwhelmed their defenses within minutes. The cadets scrambled, their formations disorganized, their responses painfully slow. A Rylith officer watching from the sidelines made no attempt to hide his smirk, loudly commenting that humans seemed more adept at running from battle than engaging in it. The Graxans, always blunt, roared with laughter when a squad of Terrans inadvertently triggered their own trap, destroying their forces in a friendly fire mishap. The cadets could do little but endure the ridicule. Every mistake was met with exasperation or outright mockery. Other species shared stories of their legendary battles, their voices filled with pride as they recounted heroic feats and clever strategies. The humans remained silent, overshadowed by a history they hadn't yet written. But amidst the humiliation, the cadets paid attention. They observed how the Graxans relied on brute strength and overwhelming firepower, their strategies straightforward but predictable. They noted how the Ryliths' reliance on deception left them vulnerable to unexpected disruptions. Each alien force, no matter how imposing, operated within rigid systems they had refined over centuries. Back in their barracks, the human cadets began to adapt. They analyzed their losses, picking apart what had gone wrong and brainstorming solutions. They questioned everything: why certain strategies failed, how simulations could be manipulated, and what resources they had that others overlooked. While the alien soldiers practiced the same drills over and over, perfecting their existing tactics, the humans experimented. They tried unorthodox methods, often failing but always learning. Slowly, the laughter from their peers started to fade. Not because the humans had improved dramatically, but because they began to move differently, unpredictably. What the other species dismissed as desperation was in fact the earliest signs of ingenuity. Unseen and underestimated, the cadets were laying the foundation for a strategy that would one day change the course of the war. The galaxy erupted into chaos when the Catharn Dominion launched its assault. Council fleets had barely finished preparing when reports flooded in, entire systems falling under Catharn control, their defenses obliterated as if they were nothing more than paper barriers. The Dominion's strategy was precise, swift, and devastating, exploiting weaknesses the Council hadn't even realized existed. Panic spread through the ranks as the Catharn forces advanced deeper into Council territory, bypassing major fleets and striking at critical supply lines and communication hubs. Amid the chaos, the Joint Training Moon became a temporary stronghold. What had been a proving ground for simulated battles was now a vital point of retreat and regrouping. Alien commanders scrambled to organize their forces, but the situation was dire. The Catharn knew exactly where to strike, and it became clear that someone within the Council had leaked sensitive information. Trust began to fray, each species growing suspicious of the others, their unity unraveling when it was needed most. In this turmoil, the human cadets were largely ignored, shuffled into the background with orders to secure supply lines and assist with logistics. While alien generals debated grand strategies, the Terrans quietly went to work. The barren moon, with its jagged terrain and endless dust storms, seemed inhospitable, but the cadets saw its potential. They began fortifying key locations, using whatever materials they could scavenge. The mining drones left over from earlier simulations were repurposed into mobile traps. Caves and ravines became hidden strongholds, reinforced with sensor grids and holographic decoys. The Catharn landed soon after, confident in their overwhelming superiority. Their warships descended like predators, unleashing waves of troops and mechanized units onto the moon's surface. At first, their invasion followed the same pattern as always: relentless, methodical, and devastatingly effective. But something was different here. For every step forward, they encountered unexpected resistance. A supply convoy would vanish, ambushed by unseen attackers. A forward base would be constructed, only to be destroyed hours later by an explosion from within. What the Katarn didn't realize was that the human cadets had turned the moon into a labyrinth of traps and diversions. Their efforts weren't flashy or heroic. They were surgical, calculated, and maddeningly effective. The Katarn advance slowed, then stalled. The humans, dismissed as mere support, were quietly rewriting the rules of the battlefield, one clever move at a time. The turning point came when the Katarn, frustrated by the unexpected resistance, launched a concentrated assault on what they believed was the Council's central command hub. It was a fortress-like structure nestled in a canyon, heavily fortified with layers of shielding and bristling with weapon emplacements. The Dominion spared no expense deploying their elite units and advanced siege weaponry to obliterate it. For hours, the canyon echoed with the thunder of explosions and the clash of combat, Katharn forces systematically dismantling the outer defenses. When they breached the final perimeter, however, they found nothing but empty corridors and holographic projections. The supposed command center was a decoy, a clever ruse orchestrated by the human cadets. It had been hastily constructed using scrap materials and salvaged tech, designed to look imposing enough to draw the Katharn's full attention. While the Dominion focused their resources on this false target, the real Council forces remained hidden in a series of underground bunkers several kilometers away, untouched and fully operational. The Katharn's mistake was costly. Not only had they wasted time and resources on a futile assault, but their focus on the decoy left their flanks exposed. The human cadets seized this opportunity with precision. Small, mobile teams infiltrated the Katharn lines, targeting key assets like supply depots and communication relays. Using improvised explosives and repurposed drones, they struck with ruthless efficiency, disappearing into the shadows before the Katharn could mount a response. For the first time, the Dominion's forces were forced to retreat. It wasn't a massive victory, but it was enough to send ripples of shock through the enemy ranks. The Katharn, who prided themselves on their superior discipline and strategy, had been outwitted by what they had considered a minor annoyance. More importantly, the alien allies, who had written off the humans as inept, began to take notice. The battlefield began to shift. Where the Katharn had expected conventional resistance, they found chaos, ambushes where there should have been none, supply routes that vanished into booby-trapped dead ends, and an enemy that fought unpredictably. The humans weren't fighting for dominance or glory. They were fighting to survive, and in doing so, they introduced something the Katharn weren't prepared for: innovation. The first Katarn retreat on the moon wasn't just a tactical withdrawal. It was the beginning of a larger reckoning. Humanity had shown that they were more than mere cadets. They were a force to be reckoned with, and their ingenuity had turned the tide of battle. The human cadets, emboldened by their initial successes, doubled down on their unorthodox tactics. With resources stretched thin, they had no choice but to innovate. Standard-issue weapons were modified and enhanced using salvaged alien tech. Mining lasers were transformed into powerful railguns, capable of cutting through Catharan armor, while abandoned recon drones became stealth bombers, small enough to evade detection, but deadly when deployed in swarms. The battlefield grew eerily silent. Where the Catharan were used to open combat and predictable strategies, they now faced an enemy that fought like ghosts. The humans abandoned the idea of holding fixed positions, opting instead for a strategy of constant movement and misdirection. By day, they seemed to vanish into the barren landscape. By night, they seemed to vanish into the barren landscape. The Catharan attempted to adapt, deploying their reconnaissance units to track the elusive Terrans. But the Cadets were always one step ahead. They used the moon's natural features to their advantage, setting traps in narrow ravines and deploying decoy signals to lure Catharan forces into ambushes. Holographic technology, once a tool for simulations, became a weapon of deception, creating phantom armies and false bases that kept the Dominion forces guessing. The silence on the battlefield was deliberate. The human cadets understood that psychological warfare was as important as physical combat. The Catharan, who had once moved with precision and confidence, now hesitated at every step, unsure if the ground beneath them was rigged to explode, or if the shadows hid away at their morale, turning their once unbreakable discipline into frustration and fear. The alien allies watched in growing amazement. What they had dismissed as amateurish improvisation was proving to be a masterclass in adaptive warfare. The humans were achieving what the seasoned Council armies had struggled to accomplish, stalling and even reversing the Catharan advance. Each victory, no matter how small, was a testament to human ingenuity and resilience. The Cadets weren't just fighting for survival, they were rewriting the rules of engagement. They had taken a barren moon and turned it into a stage for a new kind of warfare, one that no Catharan tactician had prepared for. Slowly but surely, the silent counteroffensive was building toward a crescendo that would leave the galaxy stunned. The final battle for the moon began under an ominous sky, with the Catharan deploying reinforcements in a show of force meant to crush the resistance once and for all. Their warships blotted out the stars as they descended, unloading legions of troops and armored units. The Dominion was determined to end the campaign decisively, seeing the continued human resistance as an unacceptable embarrassment. The alien allies braced for the worst, retreating to fortified positions and preparing for a bloody, protracted defense. But the Terran Cadets had other plans. For weeks they had been quietly setting the stage, using every resource at their disposal to prepare the moon for this exact moment. They knew they couldn't outmatch the Catharan in numbers or firepower, so they focused on something far more valuable: control. The traps and decoys they had laid earlier were only part of a larger strategy, one that would reveal itself in spectacular fashion. As the Catharan forces advanced, they encountered a battlefield that seemed eerily deserted. The alien allies, confused by the humans' apparent withdrawal, questioned their commitment, assuming the Cadets had fled. But the silence was not born of retreat. It was deliberate, a final gambit in a game the Cadets had been playing all along. When the Catharan reached what they believed was the heart of the Terran defenses, the ground erupted beneath them. Massive charges, buried deep in the moon's crust, detonated with precision, collapsing entire platoons and splitting their formations. The explosions weren't random. They funneled the Catharan troops into narrow choke points, where they became easy targets for hidden railguns and swarms of repurposed drones. Then came the coup de grace, a planet-wide electromagnetic pulse, unleashed from a network of hidden generators the cadets had constructed in secret. The pulse swept across the moon, disabling every Catharan vehicle, weapon, and piece of technology. Ships fell from the sky, their systems fried beyond repair. Troops on the ground were left vulnerable, their once unstoppable war machines reduced to lifeless shells. The alien allies could only watch in stunned silence as the battlefield turned in humanity's favor. What had started as an uneven fight had become a masterpiece of strategy and innovation. The Catharan forces, once so confident in their superiority, were routed, their ranks shattered by an enemy they had underestimated. The humans had proven not only their strength but their ingenuity, earning a place among the galaxy's most respected warriors. The battlefield was quiet now, save for the occasional crackle of damaged equipment and the low hum of Council forces sweeping the remnants of the Catharan. What had once been a barren moon had become a testament to the power of ingenuity and perseverance. The human cadets, who had arrived as the laughingstock of the galaxy's most powerful alliance, stood victorious, though the cost of their triumph weighed heavily on their shoulders. Victory against the Catharan had not come without sacrifice. Many of the cadets who had fought so bravely were no longer standing. Their names would echo in the halls of history, etched into the memories of their comrades and celebrated across Earth. For those who survived, the moment was bittersweet. They had overcome impossible odds and achieved what no one had believed possible. Yet the losses were a stark reminder of the price of war. As the Catharan survivors retreated, their once fearsome reputation in tatters, the Council forces began to regroup. The alien commanders who had once dismissed the Terran Defense Force now approached with a mixture of awe and respect. There were no sneers or condescending remarks now. Instead, there were quiet acknowledgments and even gratitude. The humans had not only contributed to the battle, but had turned it in the Council's favor when all had seemed lost. Word of the human cadets' ingenuity spread rapidly. Reports detailed how they had used the moon's environment to their advantage, how they had turned scraps into weapons, and how their unpredictable tactics had paralyzed a seemingly unstoppable enemy. Across the galaxy, the story of the Terran Defense Force became a symbol of hope, a reminder that strength isn't always about power, but about adaptation and determination. For humanity, this was a turning point. They were no longer the inexperienced newcomers of the Council. They had earned their place not through advanced technology or sheer numbers, but through their ability to think beyond convention. The Catharan might have dominated the galaxy through fear, but fear had proven no match for human ingenuity. As the surviving cadets returned home, they were hailed as heroes. Their story inspired not only their own people, but the entire Council. Humanity had proven that even in the vast, unforgiving expanse of space, it could stand tall. And though the battlefield had gone silent, the echoes of their victory would resonate for generations to come. A reminder that even the smallest voices can rise to change the course of history. Thank you for watching Starlight Sci-Fi, where we explore the extraordinary tales that define humanity's place in the cosmos. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, subscribe, and join us next time for another journey among the stars.